Welcome one and all, I am Lex, and this is Various Fields.
I'm Hazen Fields II.
And I'm Trey. What is good, interwebs?
And we're here to talk about Sinners.
Sinners?
Sinners.
The movie.
Sinners by, oh my god, why am I blanking? It's Ryan Coogler? Is it? Oh my god.
Yeah, I believe that's
the director? I feel like I'm messing it up, but I do think it's Ryan Coogler.
Yeah.
An amazing film. Ryan Coogler is also the same person that brought us, one of the things he's most famous for, I believe is Black Panther. He did Black Panther 1, he also did Black Panther 2. I also did think he worked with Michael Jordan, also Michael B. Jordan's first film, one of his first films, which is not Beale Street, Speaker Street, something Street. Whatever, we'll get into it. Ryan Coogler is an amazing director, and the reason why I'm mentioning this is that this was an amazing film with an amazing message, and Ryan Coogler is known for amazing messages. And I do have to say, if this was a message, this message was about an essay, because there was so much in it. There was so much I liked about it. There's so many takeaways and things like that. I'll give us a little behind the scenes. Last week last video you would have just seen would have been from last week, and we talked about the new Avengers, Thunderbolts, the new Avengers. And we gave it a synopsis. I want to change this up a bit. I want to get straight into the meat and potatoes. And because of that, before I hand it off to you guys, I want to say my favorite thing about this film, before we even get to the synopsis, is just cinematically. This is one of the first films I feel like in a while they've done something in this film that I haven't seen before in any other type of film, or illustrated in type of way, which is their correlation between music, ancestry, and then film, like actual what you can see on screen. And it was done in such a beautiful way, representationally, through not just the lens of the film, but the context of the film and the actors in the portrayal, that going into this film from just the trailers alone, it's about vampires, it's about the black experience in, say, the Jim Crow era South. It's a lot about that. I don't think I would have ever expected to get such a scene from this film. I'll throw it to you guys first, because I know I'm giving the audience a little bit of like, oh, what is he talking about? But starting right there, this film is one of the most unique films I've seen in a very long time.
Okay. You want me to go? Okay. Go ahead. All right. Well, the thing about this film for me is that it masks itself as a traditional vampire movie. It masks itself as a horror film. And in truth, it's a horror film that kind of points to a horror reality that we have in this country. And it speaks of appropriation. In this film, it has a great deal to do with music. And there's a character who is named Preacher Boy, I believe. And he is a wonderful guitar player. But it's a representation of that which is good and great. And the vampires are those who would like to take away that which is good and great and use it for their own purposes. Maybe possibly the music producers of this world. So you have within the South, music. There's many scenes, but music that was brought from Africa here. A great deal of things have been changed. The foundational music for things like blues and gospel, and then rock and what have you. But those who created it did not get the financial support of the music as much as those who took the music and started to produce it themselves. So the vampires, the bloodsuckers, if you will, were those who had taken the lifeblood out of those who had created it and took it for their own.
Okay. Takeaways. This thing's very much talked about community, very much talked about inclusion, the idea of what it means to be in congregations of varying styles and systems, right, and what it means to be a part of, the norm, and part of regular understanding and, accepting society. There was a lot that was presented both in the church aspect, the musical aspect, and the artificial idea of what inclusion might look like if everything was, presented well, again, through different scopes. So you had the church, you had the bar scene when they all were at the jazz joint, and then you had the vampires presenting a different level of inclusion as well, kind of like just bringing it all in. Obviously, made initially not willingly, but they all kind of share the same mind and all believe that, like, oh yeah, after being infected by the idea, right, or the virus of vampirism, they all were part of one body, right? So there was a fallacy to the dream of inclusion as well. This is all that you really wanted. This is all that you were asking for, right? But I think the one thing that made that contrast so disparaging from what a true ideal of inclusion was the one scene that everyone was raving about, that music scene when they were when they were all kind of like sharing one voice, one note. And I believe I forget exactly what song it was, but
I Lied to You was the name of it, I think.
Well, not the song in the movie, but the Who Says music's a language that we all understand. Right, I'm trying to remember. It was I forget exactly what song it was, but it was shown very much there that everyone in that moment, once they were in the jazz joint, the juke joint, they were all of their history, all of their ancestors, both past, present, and future, were there, kind of like sharing the one note of what it meant to be in a place. Sharing harmony. All in one, comfortably, without it being invasive, without it being artificial, without it being painted up to be something else. Everyone was in that one moment and enjoyed it authentically.
Yes. Well, once again, we don't want to do any spoiler alerts for anyone that might not have seen it yet, if you haven't seen it. But this movie, in that scene that you spoke of, is very powerful, in reference not just to the imagery, because they did a great job of using imagery, but the sentiment. So I'll tell what I saw, and then maybe you guys can explain that scene. So we have Preacher Boy, who's playing a slide guitar, which is, an old, sounding, southern sounding thing. And oftentimes, I don't know if anyone's going to go this deep into it, but when you play slide guitar, the open strings on the guitar have to be in harmony, or ought to be if you're going to play it the way Preacher Boy played it. When you just strum the string, they're in harmony.
Right.
When you use the slide bar, regardless of where that your strings will be in harmony. So there was a harmony already beginning right from the instrument itself.
Right.
And then that line of harmony of the music that came before it and the music that would come after it was all in harmony, if you will. So he played the slide guitar, and then we started seeing the remembrances, and it was kind of startling, because all of a sudden you actually saw an African dancer out of nowhere. Like, wait a minute, it wasn't done with like smoke per se in the beginning. They eventually started, but it just like all of a sudden this person was there.
Right.
Because indeed, in the music of America, that thread is always there. That came from Africa to here.
Right. Summoning the ancestors in a way.
Right. Yes. That's even better.
I think that was my takeaway. I want to do a quick thing, and again we'll put a prompt in the beginning of this video to show spoiler alerts. But at the same time, I want to go through the quick beats of the movie, not just for the audience, but also so I can explain one of my takeaways. And I'll try to do this as succinctly as possible. But the movie, in terms of beats, focuses around two twins, two brothers, Smoke and Stack. They have a very quick, kind of nebulous background. Like, we know more or less where they're coming from and all that type of stuff, but a lot of their idea, it seems like they're coming back to their hometown to build, as Trey said, a juke joint, a blues bar, or something, but a place for community in which they can, which is their main priority at the time, gain money and maybe some fame and celebrity, things like that. It seems initially maybe be a very selfish project, but really is revealed later on to be a place where they genuinely want to bring both money and community and infrastructure to the people that they love and that they're around, and they need to do so very quickly, and they need to do so very efficiently, because they know that this is people are going to try to take this away from them. If they do it through any official means, or even if they go through official means or unofficial means, people are going to try to take this away from them. So their idea is to get this up as far as they can in one day, one night. With that, another one that is a part of this is, as we said, Preacher Boy, because they're starting with him. They know him. They're his cousin. He's their cousin, I believe, and they know he's a very talented musician and artist. But Preacher Boy, his father, is a pastor who has a congregation and tells him to be very careful of who he hangs out with, which is fair, but also tells him to be careful where he plays his music and what his music's about. At the same time, though, Preacher Boy is very talented, and it seems to be that maybe some of that talent is sequestered at the church where he's coming from because he's not allowed to play the way he'd like to play. And now I'm going to get to, there are different various characters. There are store owners and stuff who are very distinctly, again, this is Jim Crow in the South America, and succinctly post-slavery, per se, but there's still a lot of laws and regulations and things that you can't do. And there's another character named Cornbread, who is a sharecropper at this time, and they sell him the dream. And then there's another two characters that are store owners. They're both, I don't know if they specifically, I think maybe Cantonese, but Asian American, Chinese. And they have a store, but they also are very much embedded into the black/people of color community because the way their money is accepted, even though of a different race, still isn't as accepted to the white community. So they need to find a way to make a living. Now, the reason I'm doing all this is that, to me, this story shows a lot about the difference between freedom and assimilation. And a lot of it is, although it seems like maybe everyone has their own different, even sometimes slightly selfish reasons, they all come together, congregate as a community for one night under a nightclub kind of situation where they're all doing different kind of sins or speculations or things that maybe society wouldn't publicly accept for both who they are, the kind of people they are, and also in this one day, essentially calling them sinners, but it's also the idea of what each individual sees as freedom, and this one place is saying, hey, we'll accept it here. Which the vampires, I believe, contrast as the difference between assimilation, where like, hey, you can be accepted as who you are no matter what, as long as you do what we say, as long as you do and follow this one line of thought. And sometimes that can be confusing. Sometimes your gift, your power, whatever makes you you, can be sequestered because you feel like, hey, I can't be who I am because the society won't accept me. But if society accepts me, then I'll feel good. And that sometimes is a trick, versus if I am who I am, despite whoever doesn't like me, I'll then feel free. And I think this movie does a great job at maybe not telling you which is which, but telling you that conflict of sometimes fighting for freedom and just being who you are and bringing the congregation and community together, no matter who it is, even under the ban or the idea of sinners, is still sometimes worth freedom, even if it's for one night.
Yeah, I think this movie, again, is so filled with metaphors and so filled with things that if you watch it a billion times, you'll come away with something else.
Absolutely.
And it's hard to just nail it, because I think the idea of a vampire and vampire lore suggests that the lead vampire has to be destroyed before any other, this is in the common lore, before the other vampires. So I think he's the head of the, what is it called, the hive or something? I don't know, whatever. But in other words, you will never become the lead vampire.
Right.
You know, you can only become
A thrall, technically.
yeah, you only become a offshoot. But a
non-name brand vampire.
Yes, but if we take it from the concept of the music producers, the radio stations, the record labels, who will come into a juke joint of sorts where community is and find that talent, and says to you, I can make you a vampire, and you can also, you can, and it sells you because clearly, and if you ever look at all vampires have a tendency to have a lot of money. Because they've been around for a long time. Oftentimes, the Dracula lore, he always has a lot of dough.
Yeah.
And in the record industry, kind of suggest and promised you a lot of money. But oftentimes the truth of it is those who are not the main vampire, they don't get as much money. They may generate lots of money, but they don't necessarily receive it themselves. And that was the sadness of that time period. And I thought that time period was important because that time period, a great deal of African American artists, they were in poverty. you know, when they passed away. They never had that eternal life that was promised to them by the vampire.
In a very little way, the lifeblood was sucked out of the community.
And, you see what I'm talking about? Yeah.
Alright, I feel as if you have a lot of stories regarding the music industry that you have not told us yet. There's a lot of things that you're alluding to, and I'm like, okay, what happened in that story? But yeah, there's very much the ideals of consumptive powers and what you try to, like I said, assimilate yourself into, that was talked about in the movie. And I very much like the idea that freedom was more or less found within the small little juke joint, made by themselves for themselves. You know, so like, you know, you come out of a lot of these oppressive states, a lot of these things that come together, making their own way in spite of the systems that oppress them, that say, we don't want you a part of our community, right? So we have that the wonderful scene of how that little marketplace was kind of like self-sufficient in its own right, you know, moving from one store to the other. The two Asian Americans, that they kind of like own two different stores on either side of the street, right? Kind of like, you know, even though it was still like a work in progress, it was still very much an effective business model to kind of like have one side cater to the African American community that was just free, and then to the white community that was not allowing any of that business. They played to both sides, right? And saying this is how we survive, right, in a society that doesn't want to assimilate within its own self, right? They were basically making within the system our own system, right? And very much in that juke joint, they made their own system and brought freedom to themselves through that way, right? The consumptive powers said, oh, you can definitely be a part of something greater, right, than this, but it would always want more. It would always want to quiet you out, right, drain you out. If you become a part of it. That was very much the vampire kind of like knocking on the door, like, hey, and you realize that the vampire was walking in saying, like, you have something that I want. You know, you have something that is important to me. So if you join my side, you can help me out with whatever I want, right? He had the ability to summon, I guess, friends from his past, right? And that's very much what the vampire was asking for him to do, or not so much asking, but more or less saying, if you let me take you over, I would have that in my pocket, you know? And it is very hard to find yourself, particularly as, like, if you're talking from the music side, as an artist, to basically find what side of the line that you really want to be on, because it is very hard to get out on your own. Particularly, I'm always going to talk to this, particularly with AI kind of like being in the forefront now, everyone's models. And there's been a lot of pushback with AI bots in the world now, right, which is definitely helpful, but I feel as if it's hard for a lot of artists in the world today to kind of like find their footing, with not a lot of people kind of like placing these, we can work on ideas together, we can get free commissions from you, and let me know when you come up with good ideas, and all the while they can get free art from you and free works from you, right, and use those to probably get more ideas from you later down the line, or probably fulfill other dreams and other notions from you down the line. So it's really hard for them to kind of like step out on their own without proper backing. And I think the Smokestack Brothers are very much, they were the backing that Preacher Boy was looking for, right? But like it wasn't the official, the right way to do it. It was opposed by a lot of different communities, you know. So I'm sorry for going on.
No.
We all did.
It's again, so it's so much in it. It's so rich. In fact, I'm going to tie it to Mad Magazine. How about this? Okay, in Mad Magazine, when I was a kid growing up, they used to you'd read the panels that were there, but on the side of the panels, I don't know if you're familiar with it, they used to have these little stories going on. Yeah. So on the sides of the panels, there was a story to read, and I suggest to you in this movie, similarly, there were little moments that weren't the main part of the movie, but little things. There's a scene where I can't remember who, one of the brothers asked a young lady to watch the car. Yes. But he does this whole conversation with her about knowing the time
Right.
of things, and then negotiating financially,
Right.
and how to negotiate financially. It was a well, not quick, but it was a moment
Yes.
that showed, for me, the passing of information, sharing with our younger people that which would help them in the future, passing on the knowledge,
Passing on the power, essentially.
passing on the power, all that thing. So that I think those moments, and I bet you I missed a bunch of them.
Oh yeah, I need to rewatch that movie. I need to rewatch like.
Yeah, I only saw it one time, but I need to watch it again. But it's important for us to as community, everybody, to pass on to the next generation that which is good, so that we can pass all the good things. We don't want to pass on anything negative, but we're trying our best to pass on that which is good to the next generation. Not that was kind of cool.
Oh, absolutely. Trey, how are we doing on time? I just want to make
We're
sure.
like 9 minutes.
9 minutes. All right. So I'll say one of the other takeaways I want to get from that, I'm honestly kind of just thinking about now as we're recounting it, that I don't think I've expressed before, is that one of the other things they focus on is not just the vampires, but also. Give quick context. Vampires are very powerful creatures, demons, monsters, whatever you want to call them. They're alive, right? You've seen enough vampire movies. They can fly sometimes. They can start to smoke fast. They can bite to suck your blood. They're hard to fight. You got to get stuck. You can't just shoot them. You got to. What is it? So one of the reasons why I'm mentioning this is there's no reason that this community should have survived as long as they did against a slew of these powerful creatures. But one of the rules that sometimes they actually follow, sometimes they don't, depending on the lore, but this movie focused on, is vampires can't just enter any domain. They have to be able to be invited in. And this is something that I think was focused on for a lot of reasons. One, to make a cool vampire movie, you got a great stakes. Secondly, sorry, that was bad.
No, that's good.
But secondly, one of the things that I was thinking about, talking about, going back to my connection of freedom and assimilation, is one thing about the quote-unquote sinners in that jukebox nightclub, where I said they all, in some way, shared the same dream of freedom. They all shared the same dream. Everyone knew that this was something that may have been a little, the way this was being created was a little under the rug, something not quite on the up and up, but they also knew this was given to the community. Some people didn't even have, quote-unquote, the proper finances, and they were still let in because the brothers and people establishing it knew the kind of what they were trying to create, the place they were trying to create, and that even in some way reciprocal, even you being there, you sharing your dream, you having a good time for one night is contributing because we all understand what the freedom we're trying to give. And I say that because everyone that entered that place was entered willingly and sometimes with acceptance, or at least with a certain understanding, and that was very easy to do. The vampires, and once you become a vampire, you cannot. You have to ask explicit permission, and that's the only way to quote-unquote sneak into this place. And I would say the larger message for that is you have to be careful of who you let into your dream, especially if they don't have a reason. Everyone can be part of this. That's something I think I've done in terms of different ideas of wanting to bring community together, people and different artists and stuff like that. But everyone has different reasonings for it, and I think everyone should absolutely be accepted in some way. However, sometimes the small difference is why are they coming in and are they sharing the same passion? Not in an exclusive way, but in a way like, do you understand what we're doing here? Because those small differences can make a big difference to the big picture, especially if you're going for something like freedom. And I just like the idea that the vampires, one of the bigger tells, because they knew history, the brothers, once you turn a vampire, you don't lose memories, you don't become just a zombie. You know everything you need to know, so it's very easily to mimic and say I'm the same person I was before. But what they couldn't do is enter this place with the same reason. They needed expression permission. That was the biggest tell for them. And I would say to you, the viewer, and all that, whatever dream you share, just be careful of who you let in if they don't give you a clear reason, if they don't seem to share the same dream. In that way, there's more I can do there, but for now.
Well, for me, my memory is not as good as a vampire, so I don't remember if we did this, but if you like this what you've been watching, please remember to like, share, and subscribe, hit all the buttons, and we're not trying to be vampires and suck anything out of you, but we do ask you to try to comment, because we believe that we're doing things here that we believe that you would like. even though that there's a V in, never mind.
Try to be
Never
embarrassing.
mind. Anyway, it doesn't make any sense. But one other takeaway I want to say, we're trying to get to 500. We're almost there. Help us get there so we can go live. And we want to thank Nels is here. We haven't heard live from Nels. And Paul is here. And we got hand claps going on over there. I don't know. I just wanted to make sure there's a lot happening.
We got Don in the back. Say hi, Don.
We're getting a live studio audience here, a little bit by little bit. But anyway, but when it comes back, one of the things about the vampires I thought was very interesting. There's a moment before they never invited them in, if I'm correct.
Right.
They never invited them in, but they stood outside the door and they asked to hear the music of the vampires. And the music of the vampires was indeed beautiful. It had its own, but it was different than the music that was inside the juke joint. It had its own appeal. But what the vampires wanted was for them to take that which was inside the juke joint and place it within the hive. So it became this mishmash of vampire-esque
Corruption.
Yes, and also appropriation. I want to use what you have within what I have to make that which I have seem better, thereby making you believe I created that which was always there with you.
And take credit for it.
And get the money from it. So there's a lot of things there. How many? We have about 5 minutes left.
4 minutes left, yeah.
4 minutes. Nels, do you have any? Did you see it? Oh dear.
We said this earlier.
No, we did. We said he didn't.
Nels
see
is
it.
a brave man.
Oh man.
I don't have anything else really to add to this because again, I would say for those who have not seen Sinners, watch it for yourself because there are a lot of messages mixed and very obvious as well that are in there. We haven't really spoken to the historical aspect of what was why everyone if it should be obvious, but why everyone was kind of rooting for this juke joint at the end of the day, where all individuals kind of came from. All right, to kind of make this dream that they felt would have been impossible without getting this initial door in to actually happen as a community, right? So again, as we always seem to emphasize, there's so much in community. If you have anything that you want to add to it, or if you want to find your own congregation, it's important to kind of always seek it out. Never be stuck in the rut, never be stuck in the system for you to just kind of accept status quo. If they accept you for who you are or what you do, that's fine, but make sure they accept all of what you are so you can live in that freedom with community that fully embraces you and not just want you to be a part of the simulations and say, oh yeah, you're fine where you are. So there's just a lot there.
I guess my last takeaway would be if you want to protect your dream, if you want to be careful, if you want to build your community the right way, and if you want to have the and when I say right people in your life, nothing that, but just no one who's going to be directly against you or hurt your people or your community, things like that. If you want to build that space, I think make sure you're accepting and understanding a lot of people's dreams and freedoms, and not everything is going to be quote unquote always as the same way that you see it, but you have to understand who their passion is. And the best way to distinguish people like that from people who may be your enemy or your vampires is just make sure they don't suck.
Yes, and that's true. And lastly, about those types of people, the last thing in terms of vampires and noticing them, one of the things I find the trope, vampires in themselves are always very alluring, always very captivating in their own way. And the only thing that distinguishes them sometimes is when they have a beautiful smile, you have to look for the fangs. Because sometimes the fangs don't get exposed right away until they thirst for the blood that you have. So be careful of those who are in your circle that have beautiful smiles. Beware of the fangs.
Well,
Do we have thunder and lightning?
No, we do not. We have scary.
All right.
Okay, that works. So do it one more time. Whoa.
Tee-hee. That's my evil laugh.
Really?
Yeah, tee-hee.
Terrifying.
Evil laugh school.
All right then. That's it.
Next movie review is going to be Twilight. All right. Good night, everybody.
No. All right. Thank you for
We'll
being
see you
here.
on the next one.